think of a hot, sensuous Latino lady. Think of her sparkling in all of her glory. Think of her with a wide open heart and a wide open mind. And think of her as the torch bearer, because that is what she is. She is a firecracker. She is Latino boss lady, Griselda Beck, an absolute, powerhouse of a woman. And she is coming on stage now. Please say hello. Everybody say hello, 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 and welcome in Griselda. The beautiful Griselda Beck. Are you there? Hello! Unmute yourself, girl. Where are you? Unmute.
I said buenas tardes, hello.
And it's 8 a.m. in the morning for you.
Yes, good morning for me. Buenos dias for me. And for those in my audience that join, buenos dias, because you guys are also.
Yay, Mickey's here. She's like, Griselda American.
Hi, Mickey! Oh my gosh, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you. And I've been waiting for this moment to share this space with you. You're one of my favorite people. My heart energetically, like the strongest magnet you've ever seen, just went.
I love it. And you too. I mean, when we met, we were just like, are we a little bit in love with each other? I think we might be a little bit in love with each other.
It was a little bit of love at first sight.
There was a little bit of it. I mean, it's so cool to have you here, and I want to kind of really get everybody to know who you are, because, you know, you, for me, you're the passionate Latino, sexy, cheeky. I mean, Mikey is saying what I'm thinking. By the way, if everyone can kind of look, there's two Mikeys, by the way. There's two Mikeys in the audience. One is a guy, one is a girl. Girl Mikey is saying, my cheeks are already sore from smiling at you both. My cheeks are sore too, Mickey. Mickey as in Mickey Mouse, and Mikey as in Mikey Mouse. So my cheeks are sore from smiling at you and for having you here. And thank you for making time this morning for you, this afternoon for us, for being here live, for looking so fantastic. And I know that people are going to be inspired by you, because the program we went through together, you didn't just inspire me, you became what we literally call the torchbearer, because you inspired so many people. You literally lit a fire in us, and your leadership was with grace and power, and I want to share that with the world. So Griselda Beck, yes, in the let's say the context of wounds to wisdom to wealth, we're going to look at who you are today, and then we're going to rewind a little bit and have a look at how the heck you got here, honey. Sounds so good. Who are you today, and what do you do?
I am a visionary, a motivational speaker, an expert strategist, and the Latina boss coach. I have such a heart for women, and specifically for Latinas and women of color. When I looked up 6 years ago, we'll talk about my wounds a little later, and I knew I wanted to go down this journey, but I didn't know where to start, what I wanted to do. I felt lost for the first time in my life. And I looked up for some support, and I didn't find anyone. I searched high and low, and I didn't find anyone who looked like me. And so now that I get to be here and speaking to women, and I see their heart, their beautiful hearts, and I see their wounds, but I also see their strength, that which they cannot yet see. And I have this gift of being able to speak into them and see beyond their current circumstances and see what they're capable of. And I get the honor and the privilege to be able to see that and help them see it for themselves, and then be here to take a stand with them, to hold their hand, On the days where they feel like they're not enough and they can't do it, I get to say, woman, yes, you are. And not because you had to justify it, but simply because you are. Because you exist. Because you chose to be born. Because you chose to be in this existence. Because you get to. And that's what I love to do. That's where I'm at.
Because you get to. I love it. And it's so beautiful. I mean, the energy, that heart energy, please drop into the chat. You know, can you feel that heart energy from Griselda? That beauty that, you know, this is a humbling calling for you to see into women's hearts and literally serve them back to themselves what is possible for them, and to see them in their strength and glory when they can't. It's so powerful. And so it wasn't always like this. You weren't always the Latina. Well, you kind of were always a Latina boss, but to be fair.
Well, okay. So on that note, just like many of you out there, like many of us women out there, yes, I was always that, and I didn't always see it. I felt it. I knew it somewhere, because you feel a calling. You feel this thing that you're meant for more. If you've ever felt that you've been meant for more, please drop that in the chat and let us know that you are with us, that we are not the only ones. There's like a little whisper. Sometimes it comes to you in a dream. Sometimes you find yourself daydreaming during the day. What would it be like if, right? That's how you would know that you were meant for more. And while I was always that, I always felt I had to justify my way. Right? I had to justify being lovable in a relationship. I had to justify being worth being loyal to in friendships. I had to justify being worth the promotions and the seat at the table, because I was the youngest, a woman, and a woman of color, 33 years young, on a board seat, not the board seat, but the executive table, at a large public company. I had no reason to belong. I felt like I had to justify my seat there. Well, this is what I'm telling you guys. You simply belong because you are, because you exist, because you get to be at the table. And it wasn't that I had to, I felt I had to. Once I realized, once you embrace that you get to, it shifts and that power comes in and it exudes. And the funny thing is, when you show up in your full power, when you show up in your full confidence, other people just immediately accept and they radiate to you and they say yes to you.
Yes, they do.
Client,
partners,
dating you, marrying you, promotions, all of that. They just say the answer is yes. When you show up in your power, the answer is always yes.
And we have both experienced that. We really have. It's been phenomenal. And, you know, I want people to kind of get that before we go into that story then, you know, that actually it's when you stand in your power, and it's not the power over something, it's the power in you, the complete radiance of your heart. It's not even that just people say yes, it's that the universe says yes. It's the only answer. And it's like, yes, 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 because you're on purpose. And I think that's the key that we've been looking at throughout this whole journey today, and we will do through the next few days, is that when you are on purpose, you are in your power and you become prosperous. You know, literally, that is the crack. So bring us back.
Yeah, and Latina Boss Coach, we call that authentically aligned abundance.
Authentically aligned abundance. Oh, yes, I like that one. So take us to the little Latina boss. Where was she? I don't know what that accent is, by the way.
So the culminating the event in my life that led me to this journey happened because I had a complete stress breakdown. It actually manifested in me physically. I was 35 at the time. I'm going to get to the little one. Yeah. And come to find out, I was blaming company, I was blaming bosses, I was blaming, everyone but poor me, right? And in this journey, what I found was I wasn't taking care of myself. It was the company's bottom line before anything else in my life, before family, before my health. There were several health appointments that I got to do and I didn't do. My relationship status went to the back seat. Always company first, right? It wasn't even about me, it was company first. My
Right.
priorities were not aligned to who I am. I was not being true to who I am. I stopped taking care of myself because I was chasing the importance of the title. I felt important because of the work that I was doing. Because if I were to stop for a second, the company would fall apart somehow, and the world would just not be a good place. Martyrism, right? Uh, and so now through this journey, looking back, I get to look at, well, where did that come from?
Mm.
Where in my life did I get the message that I wasn't good enough just because I was doing what I was doing? Where
Yeah.
in my life did I get the message that I had to justify? Because that's where working 90 hours a week came from, right? Justifying that I belonged in this space. Look at me. I'm the hardest working person in this company. First one to arrive, last one to leave, as if somehow that carried a medal.
Oh my gosh, I bet there are resonatings going on in that audience. Who has been there? I
Yeah.
am the hardest one. I am the only one that does anything in this house. I'm the only one that does anything in this company. It's always me, me, me. If I don't do it, nobody will do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if I,
Yeah.
and then the perfectionist, right? Because if we want it done right, you got to do it yourself.
Oh
Where
yeah.
did I
If you
pick
want to do
that
that.
one up?
Yeah. 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 We've
And then
definitely got.
not feeling safe from not trusting myself because I wouldn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself to be safe in an environment. And so the need for control, being controlling,
Mm.
over planning every little detail. And if something fell off, my entire energy would just shift because I didn't like to feel outside of control. I didn't like to be surprised. I didn't like to not know. I didn't like to not. It also had some payoffs. It made me an amazing strategist.
Yeah.
Amazing strategist, right? It made me an amazing executive.
Mm.
I lifted a division of our company from nothing to, multi-million-dollar company. Um, but
She
it
says,
also
she
had
says
some
very,
positives.
very quietly, by the way. She said that very quietly. Can we just go back? Can we just be really, let's be honest here. To the multi-million-dollar company. Let's just be honest. You raised the company because of your vision. Stand in that. Yes, the wound might have been there, but it did create something big for you. Go ahead.
And for others. I mean,
Yeah.
there was actual tangible impact in the world, value that others see, right? And when others can
Mhm.
see the value, it does something for you. The search
Yeah.
for significance, where did that start? So this all started in my youth. I was maybe between the ages of 4 and 10, where most of these events happened. A lot of it had to do with when my stepdad, kind of came into our lives, and feeling like I didn't have a voice, feeling shut down. I didn't have too many boundaries. I was a free spirited child, which my mom always, all I remember like growing up was her saying how, unruly I was and I was rebellious. I was actually a very good kid. But I didn't like to color inside the lines, right? I didn't
Mhm.
always naturally want to follow. I followed out of fear, out of being under control. And so what we resist persists, right? I went on to then control my environments my way.
Yeah.
Feeling like I didn't have a voice. And it wasn't terrible. It was the speak when spoken to type thing.
Mhm.
And so anytime there was a authoritative figure that somehow reminded me of that energy back in my life where I perceived that they saw me as insignificant, I would have this and I would work even harder to prove them wrong.
Mhm.
Um, there was also, I was raped at 16. I lost my virginity that way, or it was taken from me. And I
Mhm.
never told a soul. I walked away from that experience. Even my friend that was with me that night didn't even know what happened in the next room. And when she asked me when we were leaving that house, was this on your turn? Because I told her I lost my virginity. She asked me, like, was this your choice? And I said, yes, absolutely. I even went back the next week to do it on my own terms. And so never spoke of it. Didn't tell my mom, my best friend, nobody. Even got a fight with my boyfriend at the time, because what he got wind of what had happened, and I owned it. I didn't say anything. It wasn't until I was 35, in the midst of this medical crisis, when it happened again. I was raped again at 35. And at that time, I was talking to my psychiatrist, and I had to, share everything that had happened that week. And I told her that this unfortunate incident had happened. I said an incident. And I said, I don't know. It just felt like when I was 16. She said, what happened when you were 16? And I shared with her the details. And she said, that was rape. And this is rape. And that gets to be acknowledged if you want to heal and move forward. And it was interesting that one, I never put a word to it. But I told her like how I reacted after, and she said, you had a choice to be a victim or a victor. And you chose your narrative. You found strength in pretending like it didn't happen, or pretending as if it gave you strength to pretend as if it happened on your own terms.
Yeah.
Yes, I disconnected. I see that in the chat. I disconnected. I also learned to disconnect from sex. Right? So I didn't have this emotional, I was able to do what many people can't do, is to go on and have sex and not be emotionally connected to the act for years. And it wasn't until I was 35 when I met this new guy, a good guy, that I got to feel what the physical and the emotional could be when we are connected. In that, when it comes from a place of love, when it comes from a place of connection, when it comes from a place of, I see you, I am exchanging this energy with you in this moment, and I am choosing to trust and surrender. And I learned to trust in that relationship again. Learning to trust means that I learned to trust myself, and I got to experience myself again for the first time in over 20 years. And that is where this journey began. Because I said, wow, I made it all about him. I put him on a pedestal at the time. But what I now know is I got to meet me again. And I loved what I saw and felt. And so here's the journey back to me. And now I get to help other people do that too, and in their businesses.
And I love that. I love that because, I mean, not to kind of lightly brush over it, but many of us have had moments in our lives where our boundaries have been crossed.
Yeah.
And many of us have had moments in our lives where our sexual boundaries have been crossed. And it's still a taboo. There's been the Me Too movement. There's been all sorts of different things in movement where we can bring that narrative forward and start kind of giving a light to what kind of goes on in these situations. And I am absolutely not about kind of vilifying men or, victimizing women. I'm very much about, as you've seen today, what happens to us is for us. We might not always know that, but we do get to kind of choose how we shift the narrative. And a lot of the time we'll do it unconsciously to survive. But it's not until we start to bring consciousness to that narrative that we can really start to work with it. And actually, like she said, you get to acknowledge this because you've got to do that to be able to heal. You can't heal from something you're denying. So this is a really poignant part that I think we get to add to the conversation that's been happening all day. That when something has occurred like that, no matter what your narrative is, you get to acknowledge it so that you can move through it. Like you said, you've got to go through this. So you opened up the heart. You found a way back to yourself. You started having this delicious relationship with you now as a woman, no longer a teenager, a woman. And like you said, you had a partner that you could play that game with, and you made it about him predominantly. But how did that then transition to kind of being the Latina boss? You know, how did you create what you are today, move from the company to yourself, and what
Yeah.
were the steps that you took?
Yeah. So in that recovery process, when I was getting stronger and getting ready to go back to work, I was on complete medical leave, forced medical leave by the doctors for 4 months. And then as I started to come back, I started to feel better and wanted to reconnect with friends, family that I hadn't seen in a while. And one of those conversations in particular, my friend had just had a baby, and we had just had lunch a few months ago. So I said, "Hey, I'm so sorry I missed the baby shower. How's your new baby? How are things? Like, I have a gift for them." And he said, "Griselda, that was 2 years ago." I was like, "No, we just had lunch like a few months ago, 8 months ago." He said, "We had that lunch about 2 years ago. My kid's in front of me right now. He's 18 months old." And my
Wow.
jaw dropped and like the sounds kind of got muffled, and I was doing calculations in my brain. Mind you, I could tell you everything that had happened by quarter, the bottom line, shareholders, share earnings, all those things. But this pivotal event that I was looking forward to in someone who I cared about's life, like, and so we ended the conversation, and we were going to meet up to catch up. And I got off the phone and I went and asked my mom. I said, "Hey, Mom," I asked her about other events that were around the same time. Like, was this really 2 years ago? And she said, "Yeah." I asked my best friend some things too. Yes. I had missed 2 years of my life that I was clearly there. I was on autopilot, but I was not present. I was not connected. And
Mhm.
so I knew in that moment that something had to change. But the doctors and people and my mom had been screaming to me all this time, "You have to change your life, your pace of life." I had to change. And
Yeah.
so there began this journey. And so, being the strategist that I am, I created an exit strategy, just like I would for any firm, right? That knows that their exit is in 5 years. Well, there's things we have to start doing today. So I did
Yeah.
that, mapped it all out. And I wasn't quite sure, like nothing, was it looking for another job? I did that for a minute, but everything felt like more of the same. I wanted something different, something bigger. And so I decided to start a consulting company, Beck Consulting Group, because I still loved the job, like the work. I could do the strategy and the marketing consultant and be a business mentor for other companies, startups, things like that. While I went on this journey of figuring out what it was I really wanted to do.
Hmm.
So I did that. And for the first year and a half, I didn't do too much. I had a couple jobs here and there, but I just rested. My body was so tired. I slept a lot. I traveled a lot for leisure. That was nice. I got to reconnect with friends, like spend time. And I got to, for the first time, be on their schedule and be in service. Because
Yeah.
forever it was like, "Griselda, when can I get like 2 seconds of your time? Like, I want to tell you what's going on with me," right? And this time I said, "Whenever you're ready, you just say the word and I'll show up. I'll come to you." I got to be that person. It was really nice. Um, and through that, I wanted to really give back, which is something I didn't give myself time while I was, working the 90-hour weeks. And so I approached several shelters. I wanted to give back with the gifts that I had been born with the gifts that I had been given and the experience that I had. And one shelter took me up on it, Operation Hope here in North County. And they said, "Yes, we want all those things." I had offered career coaching, life coaching for the women. I wanted them to know that their current circumstances did not dictate, their future, that only they got to define that. And they're like, "And we need a self-esteem class." And I said, "Sure." So I went to my therapist and I said, "I don't know anything about self-esteem. How do I do this?" And
Mm.
she was like, "What do you think you've been working on for the last 4 years?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, think about it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this was all related to self-worth. The
Mm.
whole thing was related to self-worth. It was the underlying um, thing. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, this whole epiphany came over. And so I created this 12-week workshop, and I've been doing this now for 3 years.
Mm,
And I go twice a month. And it's such a beautiful experience to see the women go through these transformations and have these breakthroughs. And I get to see them. It's a 4-month program that they go through at the shelter,
mm,
and to see them from the day that they walk in with no voice, their head down at their knees, they don't even want anyone to look at them. Imagine, like, some of them been living in their cars, some of them,
mm.
left difficult situations, and they finally have asked for help, because some people take a while to even do that.
It's very
So
courageous to ask for help, let's be honest.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of friends, as I was sharing, what I was doing, they said, Griselda, you're an excellent business strategist and market, like, you're my go-to. But
Mm,
when you talk about this, your face lights up. Like, it's a different, like, it literally transforms before our eyes. When I
mm,
started to hear that from several people, maybe about the eighth or ninth time, I thought, okay, maybe there is something here, and I get to pay attention to that. And so
mm.
I started coaching. I threw together my first event. I had 8 women at my first event, and I saw breakthroughs in that. And they paid to be there. So I was like, I have a business doing something I absolutely
Actually
love.
love. Drop in the chat what you're getting from this. You see the steps. It's like I go through the pain. Now I have to look at my self-worth, and like, just because the language is different, like we want a self-esteem class, like I don't know what that means. And all of a sudden you start sharing with these women and seeing the
Yeah.
absolute vibrance that you can bring to their life. And then the humility, like, oh shit, and they'll pay me for this too. It's amazing. So,
Yeah. And
you feel,
you couldn't have gotten there, I think, without, like, for me, I couldn't have done that without going through the journey of my life, right? Like, everything I've gone through serves me in this capacity to be able to serve other people.
yeah,
But yeah, it was a beautiful, oh shit, like, this is a
aha,
business, and I
aha.
get to do it, and I love it. And to this day, the days that I speak and the days that I coach are the very best days of my life.
Mm.
I am on
Because
fire.
it
That runner's high that people talk about, I have that for hours after. So thank you for today. I will have a stellar day.
thank you for today. Well, I get it. I get it, because obviously it's what I do too. It's what
Yeah.
I love too, and that's why we connected. And we were like, oh, I see me, I see me, and it's beautiful because I kind of want everyone to get this, and pop in the chat that you can see that actually you don't need to go out there and have this big marketing high. You can literally start gifting who you are to people. And when you start to do that and you're giving value from your heart in a genuine, generous space, people want you. They say yes to you. That environment opens up that universe, and currency starts flowing. And kind of this is the bit that we were talking about throughout the day, that when we look at who we are, and what our wounds are, and spirituality and how we get to heal, the word money or wealth isn't always part of that conversation. In
Yeah.
fact, a lot of the time, it's almost considered a bit crude to talk about money in the same breath as, living your purpose and giving and being generous and, and being spiritual. And actually, what have you found with that?
I have found that we have limiting beliefs, right? For a lot of us. And I certainly had a lot around money in
Mm,
general. When you grow up, my mom was a single parent, had 2 kids, and was entrepreneur. Sometimes that meant when starting, and she started like 3 new businesses in my growing up period. So every time you're up against a new one, that means you're sowing the seeds of the new thing while you're still working the old thing, and making that work. So money was tight for a
Mm.
long time, and money was way more fluid than it would have been maybe even for her. So she was able to totally change the direction of our family from her point forward. And so I always say,
Mm.
like, she stopped the bleeding, and I get to be the stand to start the healing.
Nice.
So
She stopped the bleeding and you started the healing.
mhm,
Wow, that is nice. That is nice.
yeah,
Because I kind of want to touch on your mom a little bit, because
yeah.
it's interesting, because let's throw that open. It's not just about, oh, I've had this wound, and I kind of alchemized it, and now I'm generating wealth because I'm actually helping people and I'm doing this. The relationship that you got to have with your mother, and you get to be as vulnerable and as humble and as authentic as you wish to be here, but that relationship shifted massively, even in the last half a year.
Yes. Yep.
Would
Since
you
October
like to share a
we
bit on that?
turned. Sure. My mom and I are very alike. we we've been butting heads since I was in the womb. She likes to tell the story that I would kick her rib and she'd slap her stomach on the outside and I'd pull my foot back and then I'd start inching it back. Always pushing the boundaries, right? The limits. So, and we can't be apart. So it's this push pull dynamic in the relationship. Funny, I modeled the same thing in my love relationships.
Mm.
This push pull. It was very familiar to me. Sometimes they say you have daddy issues. I had mommy issues.
Yeah.
My mom is a super generous woman, would literally give her left arm for people. And when we are that much of a supporter, that means that we don't always take care of ourselves first. And so, how that shows up is being short on patience. It shows up
Yeah.
as needing control because you don't have patience, because you don't have a whole lot of time. You need your environment, your kids to act a certain way all the time, right? And when something falls even slightly out of line, it attacks, it triggers. Because you don't have time to deal with that. Ain't nobody got time for that. And
I mean, it's very
it
like
creates
mine.
resentment. There's a lot of resentment when you give to everyone else and your cup is not full. There's a lot of resentment that comes with that. So I don't fault my mom for anything. I got to learn about that so that I could be forgiving, so that I could be loving, so that I could be graceful. I was also a verbal lasher, so was my mom. So we had our very big fight in 2017. And that's kind of the pivot point where I went into my therapist and said, this thing happened again, this incident, right? This thing happened and I don't want to be this person anymore. I said some really horrible things. And I found myself in life always like not saying anything, and then I'd blow up and then I'd have all this stuff to apologize for and feel bad. And I just wanted to stop
Oh my
that
gosh.
cycle.
Who else? Who else? Who else? I don't say it, 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 and whiplash.
Oh, and my words can cut like
Yeah.
very deep.
Yeah, a lot of familiars here.
That was also my last verbal lashing of that magnitude in 2017. And so we've been cordial, right? Like doing this dance with boundaries and like don't step over this line. So then I went into this work where I met you and where I met Nikki. And what I found is I get to accept myself. I get to accept my sexuality. I get to accept, so for one quick second, I told you that when I was 16, I learned to disassociate from sex. And so that also opened me up. Everything works for us. I went on to learn to be a fully embraced, fully open sexual being. for many years. And in that, I also learned freedom in that,
Mm-hmm.
and in allowing myself to experience all that was available to me. Marry that back, fast forward 20 years later with now integrating connection with that. When you get with a partner and you are that open to exploring, to being, to just exchanging that energy on any level, on any one of our million little nerve endings throughout our body, it's magic. It is magic. So also what I intend to bring into my work later. But my mom couldn't understand that. And for the longest time, I was always very open, and I asked some very poignant questions, even at a young age, very curious child. And she would always tell me, "Es para prostitutas. That's for prostitutes." Like, don't say that. Or something else that was maybe less crude. That's only for married people. A lot of shame around sex and sensuality and sexuality. So I got to break through that in getting to know me. I got to accept it and embrace it. I also started talking about it, and it brought healing to other women. I've always, since I was like 14, I've met women who have never had an orgasm, and it pains me. It was
Mm.
really sad. Context. I was on track to be OBGYN early on in my life. My dad was an OBGYN. And so I've always had a curiosity and a learning and practice, even in high school, as a
In
medical
UK,
assistant.
that's a gynecologist, by the way, in the UK.
Gynecologist, yes. A woman's doctor for you
Yeah.
ladybugs. And so even older women always came to me when I was younger to ask their questions of, how does this work? Or they would confide in me. And so that was something I always gave sex advice, even at a young age, from
Mm.
a scientific standpoint and then from an experiential standpoint.
Mm.
So as I started to speak and be in my truth and accept, what I found was that the more I accepted me, the more others accepted me, the more my mom got to, when I did my orgasm post. If anyone's interested, you can find me on Facebook and go to my profile and look up the orgasm post. But I shared that with her. And for the first time, she looked at me with eyes as if I was like an authoritative figure on the subject. Not with the judging eyes of a mom, which I grew up in a Christian household and went to Christian schools. So that was another layer of limiting beliefs. She for the first time saw it with other eyes, and so there was a mutual respect there. She is now in the work as well, and flourishing and doing amazing, and has her own story that is helping to heal other people and is working on this. And I'm excited to jump in as a coach here in 1 week from today. And it's been an amazing journey. Like I said, she stopped the bleeding. She literally changed the course of our generations to come. And I get to start the unification through healing myself. And that then extends to my mom, and then my brother, and then my sisters, and then they will all go on to impact other people, and so on and so forth.
And it's so powerful, this sexual healing. So much of our trauma is in the nervous system. The nervous system, like you said, all these nerve endings in the body, we get to experience them, and we get to experience them on our own. We get to experience them in partnership. We get to experience them to the level of which we are healed. And I think what you're kind of bringing to the picture here is that, there is what it looks like again on the outside. I'm open, I'm free, but actually I'm completely disassociated. And then actually I'm healed, I'm whole, I'm enriched, and I'm curious about my own healing. And actually I get to experience something that is completely different and very connected. And through that, then opening up this dialogue, this conversation with other women, including your mother, who, like you said, has her own story, but now that's kind of brought her into the work of healing herself and her own story, and how her limitations kind of stopped you from going into expression in the way that potentially you may have done if you didn't have that kind of, that squashing of, that's wrong, darling. You don't do that in this household.
Using quite so politely, but yes.
Yeah. But what I can see now, and what I want you to kind of like share with us, is through these events, through the events of the 16-year-old, the 35-year-old, through these poignant moments in your sexual history, add that to this dynamic business strategist that works with multi-million dollar budgets and shifts things into, new stratospheres. Add those together, put them in front of women, empowering women, and we are now moving towards something that is going to be birthed around this kind of orgasmic woman experience, where they get to be all, feel all, love all, open up. And we said right at the beginning, the universe says yes. We get to say yes.
Yes. Yes. And not a justifying yes, but yes because you simply are, because you are radiating.
And I love that. So tell us now, kind of, where does this bring you? Where is Griselda now? What is on the horizon?
Yeah. So currently I work with people who are ready to go all in their business. They either they've got the funding and they know they're going to start, or they're already in entrepreneurship, but they're ready to be 100% committed. And I do a 1-year one-on-one business mentorship with them. And we go through all the ups and downs of life. There's a ton of mindset. They come to me because they know of my past, right? That I'm a corporate executive, strategist, marketing strategy, to help them. The blocks are usually, I haven't gotten my first client yet. I've been doing all these things and I don't seem to be getting any further in my business. Or I have no idea where to start, but I'm like, I want to quit my 9-to-5. You quit your 9-to-5. How do I do this? And so we work together through the course of a year and beyond to create that. 80% of the coaching ends up being mindset.
Yeah.
Ends up being about the things that truly hold us back. And the reason why I feel the sensuality piece is so important is because the same confidence that transcends in the bedroom is the same confidence that transcends in the boardroom. It's the same, this being in complete surrender, open, trusting of yourself, showing up in your full power. There's nothing that, people shudder under that, and not in a controlling sense, but just this utter presence that's before them. And that presence makes them feel, it enrolls them, right? It makes them feel like they can too. That's why it's always a yes. It's like, if I can just be with this person, yes, I want what she's got. And so we do. Through the course of the coaching, we even, how's your relationship? What are some things there? What are those blocks? Because it's the same. The root cause is exactly the same. It shows up as a fight with your partner, or single forever. It shows up as I'm not making any money, or I've been working like a hamster wheel and not getting any further ahead. It shows up like a lot of different things. And so we get to look at what's underneath all that. And I love doing that. What's ahead next year? Next year, we'll be doing retreats. I'm really excited about that. It's something that's been on my heart forever. Pole dancing gets to be a part of those retreats. The pole has become a symbol of freedom and release of inhibitions and healing. I have a pole in my house. I had all kinds of weirdness about having it up. And then when I started to see what it would do for other people when they would come over, I said, there's something here. So that gets to be part of those retreats.
They started to jump on it, didn't they?
Huh?
Didn't they start to jump on the pole?
They did. So several people have come to my house several times and didn't even see it. That's how blocked we are with sexuality. And then when they notice it, they are scared of it, right? They're like, oh, this thing.
as if it's going to jump out and bite them. It's literally just a metal pole. And they stand farther away. And as the conversation goes on, you see them start to inch towards it. And then they have a hand on it and they're just talking to you. And then they start walking around it, talking to you. And what they start to share in the safe space is truly amazing. And the healing that happens, they start to feel free to share things that they otherwise hadn't felt before. And so that's why I get to incorporate that into this retreat. But it will be a retreat for entrepreneurs who need to let go, who get to create flow in their business, flow in energy, flow in freedom, flow in fun, and flow in money.
Can you see why I love her, ladies and gentlemen? I love that. I'm like, you know, the confidence you have in the bedroom comes into the boardroom. The confidence that you've got around the pole is the confidence that you have inside of you. This is the divine feminine rising, and you don't have to be a woman to have the divine feminine rising, you know, and there's a lot of this around at the moment, this real connection, starting to understand that we are whole, we are, you know, not just what we physically see. And, you know, there is something to expressing ourselves in a beautiful, physical, loving way to ourselves first and foremost, and then with the other, that gives us the confidence in our business, in our offerings. It actually catapults our money mindset, which is, you know, root chakra stuff. Where else is the root chakra? You know, so there's so much beautiful synergy here. And I for one, you know, I'm signed up for that retreat. Sort me out. And I know there'll be lots of ladies that will be, you know, running to that are, you know, either well up for it or a little bit scared, but want to see what it's all about in the safe space. Yes. So how can they find you? How can they find you?
Yeah, so I think you guys have the link. I have my free ebook that talks about how to hire a coach. So if you've ever thought of hiring a coach, it literally is a little self-guide as to what the benefits are, what the major pitfalls are. For, you know, coaching has sometimes a negative connotation. And so there are some mistakes, pivotal mistakes that people make in coach selection. And then there's a little checklist there at the end. So that's a free resource guide. But beyond that, with that, if you download that, I'm happy to also have a consultation with you. At the end of that book, there's a link to book your consultation with me, and we can explore where you are right now, where you want to go, and what are the key milestones to help you get there, and what's your first step to set you up for success. I also have a workshop that's coming up in a few weeks. And so if you're interested in that, if you can just, even if you don't want the book itself, but you're interested in the workshop, it'll be a 1-day workshop, 3 hours, where I'm going to be talking about all these topics that we talked about today. Go ahead and sign up for the book anyways. And so we can reach out to you with information about that workshop and beyond. So I would love to get to know you. I love talking and connecting. I love to know your story. So that's how I am on Facebook and Instagram as at Latina Boss Coach, all one word. You can find me on my website also, www.latinabosscoach.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Latina Boss Coach. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there is definitely going to be a flurry of books being downloaded and then links to be like, should we just quickly connect with Griselda?
And I'm excited. I'm celebrating because I just got named top 10 coaches for 2021, business coaches for 2021. So
yes, you did. And I really wanted to kind of like, as Amy said, pop the Prosecco on that one. You got this accolade, and I'm so happy for you. Top Coach 2021. And when you connect with Griselda on Instagram and on Facebook, you will see she's been really kind of accoladed all over the place. Is it Disrupt Magazine
was the recent one,
yeah. And you know, you've been booked for a lot of summits because people want to know your story. story, because now you are in your heart and in purpose. The universe is saying yes to you. How fantastic. So in the chat, you will find the link to download her ebook. It is also on the dashboard. And can we all just please give Griselda an enormous well done, thank you, and drop in what has landed for you this afternoon, this morning, with Griselda, because you're one of my favorite people. You're one of my, dearest sensual hearts, all the way on the other side of the world. But I really, really thank you for coming in this morning and being live and sharing your story, sharing your heart. And there's lots of thank yous there. Health equals your wealth. Thank you for your wonderful inspiration. And I want to thank everybody as well for coming in. I know, like I said, we've had lots of different people throughout the day. And I really want to invite you, if you're only coming in now, to get on the VIP so that you get to see all of the incredible interviews that we've done today, and to get back in the morning when we have got even more amazing powerhouses. Mickey, you are both such bright, shining lights and gifts to this world. Yes, you are. And if you want to meet Mickey, yeah, she's going to be in as well. She's coming in tomorrow. How exciting. So Griselda, thank you so much. Love you, sister. Love you, sister.
Love you.
Thank you so much
for having me.
Mwah. Everybody go and download that book. It is fantastic. Okay.